Hey everyone, it's Jamie Baxter, instructor for AMP2. We are going to wrap up chapter 20, our chapter on the lymphatic and immune system. We're going to finish that up right now. We just finished talking about allergies, and we are going to get back into our PowerPoint here and finish with an integrated immune response. So the idea is exposure to antigens can trigger both specific and non-specific defenses. So they work together, right? Neither of them work alone. No matter what the pathogen is that's inside of you, it has defeated all of those non-specific defenses to get inside. So many times activities from each branch can help each other out. And we talked about that a little bit in the last section when we talked about how opsonization and complement can boost your immune system response. So responses will also vary with the type of antigen that is present. So here is everything in a nutshell. You want to know what we talked about in this chapter? Take a look at this. So antigens are triggering specific and non-specific defenses. In non-specific, you have your complement system, your natural killer cells, your macrophages, right? Along with all of the skin and the secretions and all of those things that we talked about. The complement system, the natural killer cells, the macrophages, they're going to create, or really it's just the natural killer cells and macrophages rather, producing antigens, right, APCs. That's going to trigger our adaptive or specific immunity. Natural killer cells and macrophages can also kill cells directly through chemical attack. Complement system attacks by those circulating proteins that we've talked about before. Overall destruction of antigens is the result. In our adaptive or specific immune system, depending on which type of cell is infected, our class 1 MHCs brought about by our body cells and our CD8 T cells, that's going to produce a more cell-mediated or T cell-mediated defense. Our class 2 MHCs, which are where our own immune system is being attacked, those CD4 T cells are going to respond, and we're going to get an antibody-mediated attack from that. In our class 1 cell-mediated response, you're producing cytotoxic, memory, and suppressor T cells. In our class 2, we're producing helper and memory T cells. And then all of this comes into play. This is what we charted out on that flow chart. Those cytotoxic T cells are going to cause that direct attack, right? The perforins, the lymphotoxins, and apoptosis, right? Suppressor T cells will inhibit that, make sure it doesn't go overboard, only attacks the thing that needs to be attacked. Memory T cells wait around in the wings. In our class 2 MHC, our helper T cells are going to activate B cells, produce memory B cells, and plasma cells, which will secrete antibodies. The helper T cells helper T cells and memory B cells wait in the wings, so to speak, for the secondary exposure. Overall responses to viral and bacterial infection depend on the virus or the bacteria itself. To overcome a bacterial infection, the most effective defense involves phagocytosis and antigen presentation, right? So that whole pathway that we just went through on that last slide. Overcoming a viral infection, cytotoxic T cells by way of class 1 or natural killer cells, they can be activated by virus-infected cells directly. You can also involve APCs and subsequent responses through the class 1 or class 2 MHC pathway. Here you see virus and bacteria rather, phagocytosis, APCs, cytotoxic T cells, helper T cells, both pathways depending on which type of cell was infected by the bacteria. Either way, that bacteria is destroyed. Viruses, same way. Tissue cells or APCs, the different pathways, it's the same thing we just went through, same thing we just drew out. We're just specifically labeling them as virus or bacteria that are invading. You can pause the video here, go back and review this little section. Let's talk about autoimmune disorders. This is when you have an excessive or a misdirected immune response. The self-recognition system in our body is not working properly. So typically, your body would be able to recognize self from non-self. Those B cells can make antibodies against your own self, and those are called autoantibodies. So this could be the result from a similarity of foreign antigen to body cells. Maybe there was something similar and your antibodies were just miscreated accidentally. Like the protein in the measles virus contains an amino acid sequence that's very similar to myelin. And so the antibodies that triggered viruses can also target the myelin sheaths. And this is one of the mechanisms that was thought to be one of the causes for MS, multiple sclerosis. So other autoimmune disorders could possibly increase if a person has an unusual MHC protein. So thyroiditis or rheumatoid arthritis or type 1 diabetes, all autoimmune disorders that are brought about by a reaction to your own organ. So autoantibodies are attacking, thyroglobulin, or attacking the connective tissues around your joints, or attacking the pancreatic islet cells, or attacking myelin in the case of MS. So a graft rejection is where the recipient cytotoxic T cells become activated. So someone just receives an implant or a graft from a donor, and the cytotoxic T cells are activated and attack that donor material. So you can reduce the immune response through immunosuppressant. Drugs are typically administered. Cyclosporin A will actually inhibit helper T cells in that case to allow for the tissue to be accepted by your body. Allergies are another example of excessive or misdirected immune response. So let's talk about immunodeficiency diseases. These typically result from problems with lymphoid organs or tissue development, or an infection with a virus that suppresses or suppresses our immune system, or treatment or exposure to other agents like drugs or radiation or something like that. So our acquired autoimmune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, is caused by a virus called human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. You probably know this already, right? And I think people learn this in like first grade now. The way it works is the virus binds to a CD4 protein and it infects a helper T cell. That's what makes it so dangerous. So instead of it invading a normal body cell, it's invading your own helper T cells. So the infected cells synthesize and they release new viral materials or viral proteins. That's how viruses reproduce. And those helper T cells are destroyed by the virus or by your own immune defenses. The suppressor T cells are not affected, but the suppressor T cells suppress your immune system anyway. So it's kind of a really devastating cyclical virus. So the body's more vulnerable to other microbial invaders, and we call those opportunistic infections because the body's basically creating this opportunity for other pathogens to survive since the immune system is being suppressed. Cancer is another factor that may be increased by HIV or AIDS because those natural killer cells are not able to act as they need to. HIV, or the HIV virus that causes AIDS, is spread by contact with body fluids. Most of us know that at this point. 33 million people worldwide and 2 million deaths each year. Still, it's crazy, right? Other age-related reductions in immune activity, just like everything, it slows down, it gets worse, right? Immune system's less effective with age. Our thymus is shrinking. Those thymic hormone levels are dropping. Susceptibility to viral and bacterial infections is increased because your T cells become less responsive. There's fewer cytotoxic T cells. The number of helper cells is reduced. B cells are less responsive. Vaccinations are highly recommended as we age. There's also an increased incidence of cancer because those natural killer cells are reduced and immune surveillance is compromised. So here's your last 3 questions for this chapter. Make sure you can answer them. Let me know what questions you have, as always. And hopefully I didn't go too fast. Sorry about that. I tend to get excited and talk too fast sometimes. So have an awesome day. Bye.